Back here on HQ. Now, in the preseason, even through the first 4 weeks of college football, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss were pretty primed to make a deep run in the CFP. And then week 5 happened. Ole Miss losing to Kentucky 20-17. And for Ole Miss, it was their first loss at home as an AP top 10 team against an unranked opponent in over 50 years. Now, according to Sportsline, that loss against Kentucky had a huge impact on their CFP hopes. The Rebels had a 73% chance to make the CFP before that loss to Kentucky. And now, you can see it here, they have an 18% chance to make the college football playoff, according to Sportsline. Ole Miss trying to right the ship against another SEC opponent in South Carolina this week. Now, Bama, Georgia never disappoints. The Crimson Tide beating the Dogs 41-34. Last week, Jalen Milroe launching a 75-yard passing touchdown to true freshman wide receiver Ryan Williams. An absolutely crazy catch with just 2:18 left in the game. Bama has won 9 of the last 10 games against Georgia, and Kirby Smart doesn't have a great track record against Bama either. He is 1-6 in his career against Bama. Getting a look at the odds to win the SEC. Bama shooting up to that top spot. They have the shortest odds at +200. Newcomer to the conference, Texas, still in there at +230. Tennessee and Georgia at 5-1. Georgia coming into the season was the favorite to win the SEC. Now getting a look at the odds to win the CFP. Ohio State, they are at the very top at +370. Bama right behind them, closing in that window at +380. Then we have Texas, Georgia, Oregon, and Tennessee that are in that conversation as well. So there's certainly a lot to dissect, and we still have some weeks to go of college football. But I don't know if you know this, but Chip Patterson can essentially predict the future. So we're going to look at Chip's CFP crystal ball. And Chip, if we can count on anything, it is always walking us through brackets, whether it's basketball or football now, and always coming through with a great facial expression for a wall that our producer Noah just loves to plaster everywhere. Chip, let's go through your CFP predictions. We're going to start with conference champions that are going to get the bye. So kick us off. We'll go conference by conference there for the Power Four, but starting with the SEC. Who wins the SEC and who gets that bye?
I do think it's the Alabama Crimson Tide. In part, it is because of the form of what we've seen. As Kirby Smart said it best, what are you going to do when you've got Jalen Milroe back there, one of the fastest players in the entire conference? And, oh, yeah, he can throw it. And, oh, yeah, you've got Ryan Williams over there. And you got 2 good running backs and a good offensive line. I mean, it is an unstoppable offense for anybody. And I think that that's going to carry them all the way to an SEC championship. The win against Georgia, huge for any tiebreaker scenarios when it comes to making it to Atlanta. But in Atlanta, I think the Crimson Tide continue to show their form. Then in the Big Ten, I'm looking at the Ohio State University, who have a pretty favorable schedule. Everything I've seen from the Buckeyes and the Ducks have really changed my opinion in terms of what's going to happen in Eugene here in a couple of weeks. And if Ohio State's able to get past Eugene, you'll look a little bit further down the road. They could maybe even trip up against Penn State. And you know that they take care of business against Michigan at the end of the year. Now, Ohio State has one of the most talented rosters in the entire country, but what we're seeing is there is an even larger separation between Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten. So I've got the Buckeyes as the conference champs in the Big Ten, taking the 2 seed in my college football playoff crystal ball. Then we get to the 3, which is going to be a battle between the ACC and the Big 12. Well, I've got the Clemson Tigers reclaiming their spot in a conference that they won 6 years in a row en route to 6 consecutive college football playoff appearances. And the big thing for me is a little bit of seeing Miami look mortal in the close game against Virginia Tech, but it is also the way the Clemson Tigers offense has taken a huge step forward since getting embarrassed in that season opening loss to Georgia. So with Clemson's remaining schedule really setting up for a lot more wins, I think that should get them there. And finally, the Big 12. That's where I do have Kansas State emerging victorious. They found what works for them, and that is Avery Johnson running the football, DJ Giddens running the football. Is it a dynamic downfield passing attack? No, but it is good enough to be able to get to what I think would be the record you need to make the Big 12 title game, which is 7-2. Even though Kansas State has already taken that loss against BYU, I like their schedule the rest of the way, and I like them in any neutral field battle. So Kansas State wins the Big 12 and gets the 4th automatic qualifier that gets a bye.
Yeah, it felt like the first 2 weeks we were just waiting for them to kind of unleash Avery Johnson, and we finally see it. So your conference champs that get that bye, we have Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Kansas State. But what about the team that gets that group of 5 spot, Chip? Who do you have?
I feel it's the Mountain West champion, and right now I think that's UNLV. Malik Williams is an upgrade at quarterback. We spent days with our hand-wringing over Matthew Sluka, and what does this mean for modern college football? Meanwhile, wide receiver Ricky White's over there like, excuse me, thank you. The 48% passer is out of here. Get me Malik Williams. I mean, this is UNLV. This is Boise State. Whoever wins that game in the Mountain West title game, I think ends up getting the 12 spot. And as much as I love Ashton Jeanty and spent time on the Cover 3 podcast talking about taking him seriously as a Heisman Trophy contender, when you make me call the entire game between these two, I'm going to pick UNLV. So I've got UNLV getting that spot.
All right, so Chip, we're going to reveal your 12-team playoff. But before that, we want to know who your first 4 out are. And it's a little dramatic because there are a handful of teams in here, 3 of them that are currently ranked inside of the top 15 in the AP Top 25.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about a 12-team playoff, Jacqueline, is you can only put 12 teams in there. You know, a lot of people don't talk about that. You know, that way the maths means that you're going to be left out. So Notre Dame, I'm sorry, you ain't going to make it. And you'll see in a little bit, I think that Notre Dame's season finale ends up being the difference maker in whether or not they make it. Of course, their regular season finale comes against USC. Of course, Notre Dame does not get a chance to play for a conference championship since they continue to maintain they do not want to be in a conference. So Notre Dame, I think, with a loss at the end of the season, finds themselves getting replaced in the 12-team field. Also, Ole Miss, night. You already got that loss to Kentucky. Heck, I'm putting them on upset alert when they're going to play South Carolina. It is Cocktober after all. Missouri hasn't looked great so far. I think that they'll win against Texas A&M this weekend, but in general, just a lack of quality opportunities. If you don't think Missouri is in the mix for an SEC title, it's going to be tough for Missouri to be able to make the college football playoff as an at-large. And finally, I've got Iowa State, a team that I think is going to have an extremely impressive win count, but ultimately a lack of quality victories that could push them over the edge. If Iowa State does not win the Big 12, I don't know if they'll have a profile to be able to make the 12-team playoff as an at-large. So that's a Kansas State, Iowa State situation where, you know, there's the belts up here at the top of the ladder. Who's going to climb it in Dallas and go up and grab it and end up getting a spot in the college football playoff? All
right, so Notre Dame fans, Ole Miss, Mizzou, Iowa State fans, we apologize. Chip thinks you're the first 4 out, but Chip, who makes it? Give us your 12-team playoff. Who's in?
All right, highest ranked at-large bid. I'm going to go with Texas at number 5. I've got, as you see, Tennessee at 6, Georgia at 7, Oregon at 8, Penn State at 9, Miami at 10, USC at 11. Hey, let's play it out. All right, so USC and Tennessee, game in Knoxville, Tennessee. I mean, come on now. You really think that the team that Josh Heupel has, where the opponent is nameless and faceless, is going to go down in a home playoff game in Neyland Stadium? Absolutely not. Then we've got our upset because Athens, Georgia is where I think that Georgia is going to have trouble with Cam Ward the same way that the Bulldogs had trouble with Jalen Milroe. The mobile quarterback gives the Bulldogs feet. Maybe gives them fleas. Miami advances to the next round. Then we go on to our 5-12. I don't think this is going to be much of a battle. I think in like the AP poll, Texas might be like number 3 in the country. They get a 5 seed because of the way this playoff is made. They advance. And then we've got Penn State against Oregon in Eugene. And that's where I do think Penn State will be able to live up to the prophecy of not only finally making the playoff under James Franklin, but also advancing to the next round.
All right, Chip, so walk us through the quarters here where, again, we don't have Georgia. Georgia is already out. Walk us through how the quarters play out.
Okay, so I do think that while Clemson's offense has improved in a major way, they do not have the firepower to keep up with Tennessee. And Clemson's offensive line in this matchup would have trouble with Tennessee's defensive line. I've got the Vols advancing. Then Ohio State, Miami. I mean, bring back all your pass interference. Was it a pass interference? BCS title game rematch storylines. The only thing that's going to matter on the field is talent. Buckeyes got more of it, so I've got Ohio State advancing as well. Then finally, Texas and Kansas State. bring back some old Big 12 beef, but Kansas State does not have the Jimmies and the Joes like Texas does. Steve Sarkisian getting the Longhorns on into the semifinal for the second year in a row. And then Alabama and Penn State, again, just a phenomenal matchup. This is the kind of matchup that makes us glad that we have quarterfinals in the college football playoff, but I've got Alabama advancing on to the next round.
All right, so there's Chip Sebai's Tennessee, Ohio State, and then Texas, Bama. Chip, we want to go to the national championship. Is the Nico Iamaleava hype train, the fan base, a.k.a. Tom Fornelli, are they going to be pleased with your national championship matchup?
No, they are not. But I think that these four teams are amazing. I think that a lot of college football fans would sign up for this right away. I've got Ohio State winning. I've got on the other side Texas taking down Alabama. A little bit of Quinn Ewers magic maybe for the man who was able to get it done in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And what the heck? Let's just go ahead and finish this thing off. I've got Ohio State over Texas in the national championship game, which for all the Buckeyes who received that email the day after the Missouri loss about what they needed to compete for championships, that went in and helped fund one of the most talented rosters in the country. Congratulations, you all get your wish, because I think Ohio State, the way that I've got this thing playing out in my crystal ball, I think Ohio State does end up winning its first national championship since the 2014 season.
All right, there you have it. Chip Patterson, we certainly appreciate it, walking us through his CFP predictions, where he thinks Ryan Day and the Buckeyes are going to win it all. Hey, speaking of Ohio State, you can catch them on CBS this weekend for CBS's Big Ten Game of the Week. Iowa heading to Columbus to take on Ohio State. That is Saturday, October 5th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And you can hear Chip on the Cover 3 podcast. The conversation continues. The guys are doing a deeper dive of all the matchups this week. You can download, follow, listen wherever you get your pods, or you can scan that QR code on your screen.